So how do you like the new digs? This is the tale of when I set out to the Bering Sea on a trawler from Seattle to go fishing for pollock. It was in the winter of 2021, on my birthday no less. And if you know anything about that particular year, COVID was in full swing, so we had to wear masks 24/7, even in the factory down below where our masks would get soaked within minutes and caked with fish guts. And we had to breathe through those things for 16 hours. Perhaps it was a blessing then that I injured my back. I'm largely recovered now, but those ships are not made for tall people. There was one dude who was like 6'4" and his shoulder touched the ceiling when he stood, so he had to crank his neck everywhere. Great guy, very positive attitude. He mangled his leg and got to go home early with full pay. Hope you're doing well wherever you are, dude. But anyways, being 6 feet tall, the conveyor belt I sorted fish ovaries on for the entirety of my 16-hour shift was about high enough for me to rest my nuts on, if I so desired. And being hunched over said conveyor belt the whole time was bound to lead to some sort of issue. After a month, my back was in utter agony with no relief. I asked the medic for a back brace and she said, "Everyone wants a back brace and I only have one left. Here, take some ibuprofen, about 600 milligrams each. Take a couple each day." Normal dose is about 200 milligrams, these are mega ibuprofen. And so I took them, to no avail. Then she said, "Here, take it," and threw the back brace at me from across the room. To keep it short, that didn't help either. The damage was done and I would feel that damage for about 4 years after. Even with the back brace, I was still taking ungodly amounts of ibuprofen, by the way. And that's when I said, I'm out here to be able to afford whiskey, not so that I have to quit it. And that's when I resigned. But then I said to myself, no, I can't give up on this journey now. That would be a very lame way to conclude this story. What else can I do? So I asked if they had any jobs in the galley, and they said, well, we have a housekeeping position open we're trying to fill, and I said, I may not be good enough shape to sort fish ovaries for 16 hours, but I'll be damned if I can't scrub toilets for 12. I still work nights. Now, some of the crew, a third of them being from Gambia, Senegal, and Sudan, thought a man working as a housekeeper was in fact quite womanly. But let me tell you, I felt far more manly swabbing the gangways, scrubbing the most disgusting toilets you've ever seen, and blaring sea shanties from the laundry room. Way more than I did working in the factory. And did I mention I had free time during my shift? It was great because I had a set list of things to do, so I just timed out when I would get them done, and then do some drawing and messaging while waiting for the laundry to finish. Made some pretty neat pieces out there. It was the most I'd drawn in 3 to 4 years, and it was only like 7 pictures. I quit my job as a phlebotomist at a plasma donation center to work this job, and boy, that was another kind of experience. But let's just say I got very comfortable around blood, needles, sex offenders, and junkies. One of my managers from that place said, when you go out there and there's a big storm, I need you to reenact that one scene from Forrest Gump where Dan yells, "You'll never sink this boat!" And I happily obliged him.
You'll never sink this boat! Come on! You call this a storm? It's time for a showdown! Just you and me! I'm right here! Come and get me! You'll never sink this boat!
My old manager loved it, and as I was walking back, there were a couple Samoan ladies smoking who gave me a stern eye and said, if the captain catches you that far out on the ship during a storm, he'll let you go. I considered it, and I figured that out of all of the reasons to get fired, Forrest Gump is one of the better ones, and I could live with that. Also from the Plasma Donation Center was a donor who decided to keep in touch with me over Facebook Messenger while I was out. I enjoyed talking to him on the floor, but out on the ship, let's just say he taught me what it means to be a woman. That's right, I understand what it means to be a woman now. I was growing my hair and beard out at the time, a patchy, terrible beard I might add, and he asked for a picture of my hair. I saw nothing odd about this, so I sent him a photo or two. Oh yeah, he said, and the rest is a blur. But I recalled that he kept talking about wanting to get together when I came back, wanting more pictures, etc., until I eventually just stopped responding. Now look, I wish I was gay. More so bi. I cannot tell you how many handsome men have hit on me, and I just could not cross that threshold. This was not a pretty man. Charismatic perhaps, but not pretty. He was old enough to be my father, and my father is significantly more handsome, but I digress. After I stopped responding to him, he gave me great walls of literature through Messenger, many poems and pictures of his morning coffee, asking how I was doing, how much he missed me, and I realized I was experiencing womanhood. Indeed, even the female crew members agreed with my assessment and declared me one of their number. You know who else understands womanhood? Loki. Yes, I also dipped my toe into Norse heathenry while I was out there, slowly losing my sanity. Oh yes, you thought my wanting to hear from God videos were the first time people thought I was going to convert to a spiritual tradition? Think again. I learned a lot, but ultimately it just felt contrived, referring to thunderstorms as Thor, or the concept or spirit of wisdom as Althin, or that I should appeal to an abstract force for my safety out in those waters that I would arbitrarily refer to as Njorther or Aegir or Ran. And I couldn't quite take on that outlook. Now that I've explored symbolic worldviews more and been reading Seed of Yggdrasil by Maria Kvilhaug, I feel like I have a much better foundation for that kind of worldview, but my interests are much less focused on that specific point in history than they once were. But I did miss my brothers in the factory. Charlie was a real one. Shout out to him. I forgot most of their names, this was exactly 5 years ago, but I do remember Cap. Guy looked and sounded almost exactly like Voss from Far Cry 3, and I even told him so and he gave me the maniacal laugh. He worked in freezer blades at one point, I believe, the hardest job on the ship. And when I would go to help him move 50-pound pans of frozen surimi, he would yell, "Ayah!" with each one, and I joined in, "Ayah! Ayah!" It was a beautiful time. There was also a time where people kept leaving their paper cups on the gangway railings. I picked them up for a week or two, but eventually I started leaving notes on them. Fun and polite at first, until the cups began piling up. Then my notes became slightly more aggressive. Then, it eventually just evolved into me drawing penises on them. Even poor Cap. He left his cup 10 feet away and I snuck up on it when he wasn't looking, and just as I finished drawing the balls under the rim, he saw me and was like, "No, no, 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 ah." Later, I was told that all of those cups needed to be cleared out or there would be some kind of consequence. But it wouldn't fall on me, it would fall on the people whose staterooms were on that level. So, the rails on one particular level were filled with the dick cups, and I didn't have to deal with them. Schadenfreude is a beautiful thing. Also, my mother was kind enough to send me cigars when we were docked at Dutch Harbor. Some nice Alec Bradley black markets. Don't worry, I paid her back. Anyways, I was in the smoking area with one of these big fat stogies when one of the guys came up to me and was like, "What the fuck is that?" And I said, "It's a cigar." He said, "You smoke that whole thing?" "Yep, takes 45 minutes to an hour." Holy shit. One of those guys who worked in freezer blades had a particularly rough day. Big 6'2" Samoan fellow who was made of different stuff. He went around to each guy and asked, "Mind if I get hit off that, man?" "Thanks, man, I really need that." "Can I get hit off that, man?" "Thanks, man, I really needed that." And after getting a bump off of several cigs, he comes to me with my stogie and asks for a hit. Now, I know full well this guy knows how to smoke a cigar, but what did he do? Even Charlie said, "Dude, chill out, man, it's not a joint." And he expelled the biggest cloud of cigar smoke I've ever seen, and passed it back to me and said, "Thanks, man, I really needed that." Samoans are built different, guys. The chief cook was my direct superior, and I shit you not, the dude looked and especially sounded like Silvio from The Sopranos. His name was Gus, straight out of Mexico, and as someone who has a weakness for Takis, let me tell you, when he made traditional tacos for the crew, it was a true test of the will. Straight acid, and not the fun kind. Anyways, I gave him my observation, that he reminded me of Silvio, and without looking at me he said, "The fuck?" And I said, "Exactly, just like that." He got a kick out of it. So I bet a lot of you want to know, how much money did I come back with? 16 grand. And what did I spend it on? Cars in college. It still hurts just thinking about it. One of the Sudanese guys on there at one point near the end during a storm was practically hollering at me like a cursed sailor when I told him I intended on getting an accounting degree after. And with haunted eyes, he said, "Yes, get knowledge. Don't end up like us. There's still a future for you." Great characters out there. I distinctly remember a factory worker and one of the galley crew passing each other in the gangway. I don't know if one guy looked at the other funny or what, but he said, "Fuck you." And the other guy turned around with an indignant look and said, "Fuck you." That kind of thing happened a lot. And you may be curious to know, no one died while I was out there, but there are plenty of stories from previous seasons of people who had. Like their pant leg getting stuck on a line and they got dragged to the bottom of the Bering Sea, that kind of thing. Although one guy did die in the season before me. He drowned in his sleep, pink froth in his lungs. Probably a pulmonary embolism. He was a young guy in his late 20s too. And the crew were talking about how surreal that experience was because, out in the middle of the ocean, have to wait for the Coast Guard to come over, and they weren't available for a day or two, and so they lowered his body into the freezer down below, negative 40 degrees Celsius, I believe. And so all those crew members were working, moving boxes, while their dead coworker was just lying there frozen next to them, just a few feet away. And then the Coast Guard came along and then lowered the big crane down and pulled him up out of the freezer hold and onto their ship, and that was that. So yeah, that's my experience on the Bering Sea. I learned a lot of things, gave myself a chronic injury or two, perhaps a little mental damage. Most fun I never want to have again. It was a good time all around. I do hope you found this amusing, but you really should go do something more productive with your life now, like sniffing glue or picking the mushrooms out of your hair. That's all I have for today. Be sure to smash that dislike button and leave your cruelest comment down below. Farewell.